That means we're live now, I think. Hello, if we are. Hello, welcome back to the Dead of Winter. I'm Mike Mason, the creative director of Call of Cthulhu at Chaosium, and I'm joined by our illustrious players, Lynne, Jema, Becky, and Jayson. And this is the second episode of the Dead of Winter. So before I begin, just a general thanks for everyone who's watching. If you're watching this for the first time tonight, please head over to YouTube after the show and catch up on the previous episodes, which are all on the Chaosium channel on YouTube. But other than that, thanks for watching. So we have a bit of housekeeping to do from last session. One of the things I mentioned towards the end of the session was that according to the way the campaign is written, there is a sanity loss or a sanity roll needs to be made every day once you start having these visions from the dead. However, having looked at this again, I fear that you may all go insane before the campaign really kicks off, as we had 17 days before you get on the boat to Russia. So I have made a ruling that it's a weekly sanity roll, so just one a week. And I then, on your behalf, randomly made those rolls for you and adjusted your sanity. So just to recap and let everyone know, Maxime's sanity is now 37. Eleanor's sanity is 42. Georgina's sanity is 55. And I've got everyone's character name down. I've got Francis, yes. I looked at my list and realised I've written everyone's character's name down apart from Lynne's. I just put Lynne. It's not Lynne's sanity, it's Francis's sanity.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Francis's sanity is 45. Also, because of a brief temporary insanity enjoyed by Maxime and Francis last time from their visitations, I've chosen to corrupt your backstories. So Maxime has a corruption to the significant people element, and that basically says that Maxime is having guilty feelings about not being able to stop Edward's death. And Francis, in the personal possessions category, has become obsessed with a penknife given to her by her uncle Harry, and is tending to kind of keep it on his person all the time, keep fiddling around in their hands, playing with it kind of thing, just a little obsessively perhaps. But
stabby.
Before we crack in fully, a quick summary of session one for everyone. So our players had a meeting with the British Secret Service, effectively, with a Mr. Hill and Mr. Weston. And they have basically informed our players that the British government would like our investigators to go to Russia on what ostensibly looks like a holiday, and while there, meet up with John Pallas's wife, an ex-British engineer who defected to Russia some time ago, and seems to have married a Russian lady, although he is already married to a lady in England. But to meet with her in Moscow, hopefully find out about where John actually is, and hopefully speak to John and check what the situation is with him. Also, to determine if slave labor is being used by Russia on the building of the Belomor Canal, as this would be an unfortunate thing and something the international community would frown upon. And so there were some thought to a bit of spying to see whether that is happening. So our characters have bought some supplies for their trip, some phrase books and some stout boots and coats and so forth. And we now join our group on the 27th of October in London, and they are about to walk up the gangplank to the boat that will take them to Russia. And the boat is the Kupatazia, which is otherwise, I believe, Cooperation in English. And it's at Hayes Wharf on London Bridge, and it's about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. The day is clear and cool. unless anyone says otherwise, are you doing anything that I need to know about while you head towards the boat to walk at the gangplank?
Well, I'm giving my wife and child a kiss, and I am heading up the gangplank and really hoping that the weather's going to be good, because the biggest boat I've ever been on is a rowing boat on the Serpentine, and I'm really not looking forward to this.
I'm enjoying the beautiful view and the ocean, and kind of getting ready to do some sketching on board.
Okay.
Carrying a jug of water from my kitchen sink.
Oh, you've taken that with you all the way, yes?
Just in case.
Just in case. I like the sound of that. I'm sure that won't come back to haunt you at any point.
Maxime will be, he's taken a small photo out of his coat, and it's Joan, and he's looking at her, mulling over things, thinking things through in his head, and is feeling quite unsettled at what's happened now that he's just recovered from his funny turn. But he'll presumably hear a bell or something on the boat, fold it away, put it back in, and then quickly head up the boat. Yeah,
I mean, there are other family members and various sorts of ratings coming to and fro, but families seeing other family members off on the voyage. As each of you walk up the gangplank, you are welcomed with a welcome comrade by someone who is the first officer, who introduced himself as Anthony Kirikin, who comes across as slightly bullish yet very efficient. And he repeats your names from a list, looks down, nods, checks you off as you head on board, pointing you in a direction where a chap called Ruslan Popov, who introduces himself as one of the tour guides. He's fairly broad built and welcomes you again, and says helps you to find your cabins wherever they may be, and also mentions that in about an hour's time there will be a welcome from the captain in the music saloon on the upper deck. Various of the ship's sort of staff come and go, helping you with luggage as necessary. Can you just remind me, did you all end up booking second class, or did anyone go first or third?
First, definitely first.
Second.
Second. Okay, fine. Okay, so good. Obviously, the first class accommodation is slightly nicer, Maxime. It's something, but it's pretty much as you would expect, to be honest.
Absolutely. Nothing
else
subordinate to that is just not acceptable. You all have keys to your apartment, right, your rooms. Third classes, they don't. Third class. At this point, people are kind of shoved bags in rooms, come back out on deck. The deck is pretty much where everyone seems to be. Everyone's kind of leaning on the railings, looking back down, waving at family and friends, that kind of thing. And it's not long before, it's not a big boat. It's not thousands of people on it. It's a handful really, and everyone's on board. There were whistle blows and it pulls away from the quay. The waves slap against the dock and the lines are let go, and the ship pulls out of the wharf. And we all die.
No!
Oh no!
And you head underneath. So, is there anything anyone wants to do before the captain's address? Because I'm assuming you all want to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it would be rude not to.
There might be free gin and tonic.
I believe they're more likely to offer vodka.
That would make sense.
Awesome. I'm just going to do a little bit of wandering and exploring, really. It's all very exciting, new things.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I know where all the doors, all the exits are, all the potential escape routes, where the lifeboats are, that kind of thing.
Okay. Georgina,
while you're wandering about, kind of eyeing up the other passengers and seeing who's who, thinking who might make a good portrait and so forth, you spot a lady. Well, you're right. Well, perhaps a little older than you, but not a great deal. Who is clutching what looks to be an artist's pad and a set of pencils, and something about the way that she dresses, kind of long, slim, long brown hair, quite intensely dark eyes, just gives you the impression that maybe this is a kindred spirit, perhaps.
I shall go and do a little sort of casual walk up and wave my arm at the view and go, oh, you know, it's just the colours, just such a wide expanse. Very inspiring, don't you think?
Well, yes, it is indeed. I was just thinking the very same thing myself. And introduces herself as Grace Mallory, and you've got your sketchbook on you. You just said, yeah.
Yes,
says,
yes.
I see you've got a, snap. I see you draw as well. I'm an artist myself. What brings you to be heading to Russia?
Well, I mainly sculpt, but I think I'm just going to try and get some impressions so that when I get back to the studio, I can really get involved with some pieces. But I'm particularly interested in some of the new folk art and kind of more modernist works that are being done as part of kind of the new wave. I've been doing quite a lot of chatting with my kind of friend who knows a bit of Russian about kind of Russian art and things. And so, you know, it doesn't feel completely like a dreadful cover story because it's kind of true. But I mean, I'm also aware that I'm not going to just go, by the way, we're spies.
Okay.
So I'm trying to kind of focus on the passionate art element.
Yeah, and she's very much engaged and interested, and starts asking you lots of questions. So you kind of regurgitate what your friend has told you, and but also very interesting sculpture. She's not tried that herself. Very much a kind of a pencils and watercolor artist, but hopes to be able to capture the vibrancy of the sea on the voyage and the coast, and the inner character of Russia and so forth. You find yourself chatting, and somebody will probably bring you a drink at some point if it's gin or whatever. And
hurrah!
And it is a bit chilly on the deck, but you've got your coat, so you're okay. Meanwhile,
I will happily chat to her until it's time to go into the captain's jolly.
Okay, that sounds good. Maxime, while in first class, milling around in the first class lounge, a chap, probably in his early 40s, about 5'7", slight glasses, a bit studious looking, looks like an academic of some kind, tweed jacket, wanders in, and it automatically comes over to you, shakes your hand, and introduces himself as Lewis Stenning, and pretty much then says, "So who are you and what do you do?"
Oh, well, what don't I do, Mr. Stenning? I'm a man of all things. I do a bit of boxing, wine tasting, reading history, driving my Bentley in the countryside. But as you can see, I'm on my way to Russia, just as you.
Yes. What takes you to Russia? You see, by the way, he's holding a copy of Das Kapital by Karl Marx.
Oh, very good. Well, my mother is Russian. She became aware that I'm just to be going there for a holiday, a little getaway. But she told me of a friend of a friend she wants me to try and get hold of. just to see if we can find her. Really, they used to be friends back when she was a bit younger.
Oh, that's very interesting. Family connections, eh? So back to the homeland, eh? Yes, yes.
Well, I've only been there twice or so when I was young. I don't really remember much about it at all. But what about you? Are you a professor?
Indeed, I am. You have observant eyes. Yes, I am. I teach economics at All Souls, Oxford. But very interested in the Russian model, the experiment, Bolshevism, and so forth. And to see it in reality and practice will be marvelous. Will be an education itself.
I see. I was a Cambridge man myself.
Ah, well, fair enough. And you two can pass the time away and order a drink if you so wish before it comes close to the captain's welcome. So time passes. The rest of you kind of mill around. Don't really. You may, have a few words with one or two people or so forth, but nobody really kind of catches your eye or really engages you in anything particular. And if I can find the right bit. So the time for the captain's address arrived. All the guests. Are you all still there?
Yes, we're all still
Sorry,
here.
I had a message on my screen saying internet connection funny, so just double checking. I'm not sure.
We're hanging on your every word.
Okay, fine. All the passengers are gathered in the saloon. You see there are, interestingly, portraits of Lenin and Stalin rather than the king on the wall. There's a radio tuned to the BBC playing an English ensemble playing Brahms and Schubert. It's a bit of a squeeze, but people come in, take up chairs and settees and gather around a grand piano. But everyone can kind of squeeze in more or less okay. And you see that tour guide again, Popov. He stood there, and next to him is another dressed similarly, presumably another guide. And they both kind of start to mingle around the crowd, just introducing themselves, and you kind of catch the name of the other tour guide as Laskin. He looks just a tad older than Popov, a little heavy set. He's got these kind of sleepy looking eyes and receding hair, but he has this kind of general kind of kindliness look about him, and just instantly, when compared to Popov, just seems a lot more approachable a person, whereas Popov is kind of a big man with the kind of classic kind of big moustache, curly brown hair, and I don't know, he just comes over as that kind of much more of a bullish character in that way. But they come round and shake your hands, kind of thing. But it all kind of passes fairly quickly, and then the captain kind of wanders in with the first officer. The captain introduces himself as Stepan Yefimov and Lieutenant Anthony Kirikin. It's the first officer. They kind of both, again, present a bit of a contrast, the captain being quite polished, urbane, perfectly turned out military kind of bearing. Whereas Kirikin is just a little bit more world weary, slightly less polished, but still smart, but not quite spick and span like the captain. The captain does kind of come as he comes in, greets people, shakes hands with welcome comrades and so forth, and welcome aboard. And eventually kind of makes his way towards the grand piano, and the radio and the music is turned off. And he gives a kind of a speech in English, which is kind of heavily accented in Russian, which I'm not going to do. And he says something like this: "Hello, I am Captain Yefimov. I give you warm welcome aboard the Kupatazaya. I am very happy you have chosen to visit the Soviet Union and see our fine new country. We want you to witness now what it is and think what it will become in the future. A beacon for the world. He smiles encouragingly, possibly waiting for applause. We go across the North Sea to the Kaiser Wilhelm Canal and through the Baltic Sea to Leningrad, 5 days sailing. We have lectures and films and music and good food and all you good people, and we hope you will enjoy the voyage. Lieutenant Kirakin, he indicates to the first officer, will answer any questions now and at any time. With this, Kirakin salutes and Yefimov leaves, shaking hands as he does so. It's very kind of perfunctory, quite quick, and he's out. Kirakin is sort of stood there looking from passenger to passenger with a kind of vague smile on his face, waiting to see if anyone asks him a question before, again, you get this sense before he can leave as quickly as possible, but he's kind of obliged to stay there for a few moments. So nobody seems to ask a question unless any of you do. He then moves on.
I shall turn to Grace and just raise an eyebrow. Go, well, that was short and sweet.
Yes. Well, I'm not one for all this, pomp and circumstance. I find it all a bit distressing. I'm more of a free spirit,
Yes, indeed.
If the rest of you are continuing to mingle, you I would like Eleanor to make a spot hidden roll, please.
Oh dear, 99.
Okay. You have you left your glass of water in the room?
I'm thinking no until I want to carry it. It's a jug, but I'm carrying it now.
Okay.
I don't. This is uncomfortable surroundings, and I feel like it's a little piece of home, and obviously it's a little piece of my brother. So at the moment, I'm carrying it, and yeah, that's possibly a bit crazy, but that hasn't occurred to her.
Okay, that's fine. Most people seem to be avoiding you. You haven't realised this yet, but they are avoiding you. However, after a little while, in the near the grand piano, a chap, probably aged in mid-40s, overweight, ill-fitting kind of green tweed suit, flat cap, smoking, comes up to your side and very casually says, "So, what's with the jug of water?"
Well, I don't want to spill it, so I thought I'd hold it in case the boat rocks. I'm not sure how much it'll rock when the boat starts, you see, so I thought it's better to hold it rather than put it down, because if I put it down, it might fall off the side. But I suppose, look, I put it on the piano here. Should be fine there. How about I could play the little bit of piano? Why not? Something Russian, why not? Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1, perhaps. See if I can remember it. Possibly. Let me see. I'll see if it comes back. And so I start trying to roughly play it.
Okay. Can I have a look roll then? Just see how well you play this.
I do actually have skill.
You have a music skill. Okay, roll your music skill then.
I think my luck skill's higher.
I'm sure it is. But if you put points in music, let's use that.
Alas, no.
Well, you play a few bars, and you got the drift of it. But
there you go. That's Russian.
Heading into improvisation territory, but you get there. He introduced himself as Henry Milne and says, "Well, I see you can just about carry a tune. That's marvelous. So, why are you here? What are you doing heading to Russia?"
Well, I received a letter asking me even that I might go, and so I thought I should because I got a letter.
A letter? Who? What, from Russia?
Yes.
Somebody their relation.
Well, yes, of course. If I got it from France, I'd probably go to France.
Well, that's very true. Was a family member or a friend? Or?
No, I'd never heard of them, but there were things in the letter that I related to, and so I thought, well, why not go and meet these people and take up on their invitation to come over, and so I'm heading over, and I gather we're getting some cultural things whilst here, so holiday. Yes. What about yourself? You're on a boat to Russia too?
Oh, I'm writing a story about the trip, about the tourist initiative started by Stalin to bring foreigners into Russia to see the country and to see the Soviet states. I work for the papers, you see, and I'm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm interested in your story. Perhaps we could talk more about it sometime.
Perhaps I'll be in 2 novels. I'm writing a book myself. I also work at the papers, but this is nothing to do with the papers. I'm on holiday, but what was it, Harold? I think I can't remember. So anyway, I have been writing a story too. So am I a character in your book as well? But I'm not really writing about myself. I mean, I kind of joke that the character is myself, but of course it's a fiction because
he's nodding kind of throughout this, kind of looking for a moment to get in, but you don't give him much chance. But eventually, he says, "Oh, well, that's very interesting. Yeah, we should definitely talk again. I've got to go now, so I'll see you around."
As soon as he goes, I pick up my jug.
Just walks away. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I've been keeping an eye on this lot just to see whether I'm going to need to step in at any point to stop them from doing anything particularly stupid.
No, okay. Well, later that after dinner, we'll have you meet up with Sir Felix Brearley, who's in his early 60s, who you meet on his way out of third class as you're kind of walking by, who comes across as a kind of a grey-haired, kind of well-dressed, walks with a polished cane, coming out of third class, which strikes you as slightly odd.
A bit strange.
But he's got a kind of a kind look about him, and he just kind of like more or less bump into you and sort of introduces himself, and he seems overly enthusiastic and is very keen to say how are you finding your quarters.
Has he been drinking?
You think he might have had maybe a 1 or 2, but not a tremendous amount from the sound of it. Look at it.
Oh, they're very nice. Yes, thank you. Can I escort you anywhere, sir? You seem to have got yourself a bit lost.
Oh no! I decided I would save a few shillings and pence by taking third class accommodation on this trip. It's all a little bit of an adventure, you see.
Yes, I can imagine it would be. Okay, so making a mental note of he might have a title, but he's obviously as poor as a church mouse, and he's not doing it as an adventure. He's skint.
Yes, certainly. He seems, as I say, he says, he kind of asks you about being, a private detective. I presume you're saying that. Mm-hmm. He's very interested in that. Would like to, would love to, at some point sit down and hear about, you must know very interesting tales and stories and adventures that you've been on, and tracking down the miscreants and the lowlives and all sorts, and must be fascinating, your line of work. Mine is completely not in any way interesting. I am a choral master and spend most of my time dealing with a different sort of person than the ones I guess you have to follow around in skulking corners and so forth.
Did you say choral master?
Yes, that's right. Yes, I choir conductor and yes.
That's what I thought you said. So where at?
Oh, I work all over. I work in a I have the home parish just outside of London, but I also go into the city and work with some of the university choir.
And your reason for going to Russia? If you don't mind me asking, Sir Felix.
Well, I as I say, it's to see this new country at its birth, just to see what is going on, and Russia is so filled with history that I want to experience that whilst seeing the new, and I ideally hope the two are being reconciled, and that the old is not being swept away in this rush to modernity that Mr. Stalin seems to be on according to the newspapers.
Well, some of the musical interludes should appeal to you then. I've never been to a ballet myself. It should be, as you say, an adventure.
Well, yes. Well, I'm very much looking forward to all of that. Yes, absolutely. And with that, he kind of bimbles off, and again, all these four people, you kind of, you all kind of bump into at different times, kind of thing. But if you want to seek them out at any point, or drill them for information, then be my guest. But just let me know. But otherwise, the voyage itself is going to take. Let me just double check. I'll find the right. Yeah. So you've got 6 days on board, and I'm going to relate a few things. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of me talking, so I'm going to move through this briefly and get on to more interesting things. So,
well, you do. Can I ask a question of my fellow passengers?
Yeah.
Are we acknowledging each other's existence, or are we steadfastly pretending that we don't know each other?
At the moment, I'm keeping more distant, but if we do lock eyes, I will simply sort of smile and nod.
Well, no one's told me anything, so hello.
Hello.
Well, I mean, it's not an enormous ship. I imagine there aren't like that many passengers.
No, you will keep bumping into one another. Yeah.
So to kind of, I'm fairly sociable. So as an artist, one's always looking for, patrons and subjects. So I will have introduced myself to pretty much everyone and anyone. So I see no reason to pretend I don't know them now.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Perhaps I won't go into that I've known them through weird things. I will sort of assume, I'll let other people assume that we have met on board and hit it off. But Grace and I have hit it off immensely. So we will spend a lot of time doing painting and talking art at each other. But if Eleanor wants to come over and be overexcited at me, I shall be polite.
Very good. Well, day one is more or less as I've described, other than to say dinner was caviar on ice served with pancakes and sour cream, beef stroganoff and the salad of cucumber, radish and lettuce, followed by some watermelon and some vodka. So thus ends day one. Day two, obviously you get breakfast, lunch and dinner every day on board. And during day two, there is some lectures that you may or may not wish to take part in. The lecture today is by Valerie Marcoux, and it is on Lenin. However, there is an alternate arrangement if you don't wish to hear about Lenin. You can take a Russian class with the guide Laskin.
Yeah, he's being far too nice and I don't trust him, so I'd like to keep an eye on him. So yes, I think I'm going to go to the Russian class.
You're going to do the Russian class. Anyone else doing the Russian class?
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyone going to the Lenin?
I'm quite intrigued by the Lenin.
Okay. Maxime, did you say?
No, I'll go to the class.
You don't have to go to any
class.
of it. The Russian class.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Fine. Okay. That evening, I'll come back to what you learn. But that evening, you do get a chance to watch the silent film of Battleship Potemkin, which is the dramatic retelling of the 1905 naval mutiny, and it's accompanied by a stripped-down score played on piano and cello by a couple of young soloists from the Academic Opera and Ballet Theatre in Leningrad. So it's very exciting. But prior that day, you have Mr. Popoff comes by. And let's see. So who is going to be on deck watching the sea at about just after midday, after lunch? Who's likely to be on deck? You're going to go, none of us. That's fine.
What's the weather like? Is it lovely?
Yeah, I was going to say.
The weather's not bad. It's not raining or anything. It's a brisk breeze.
Oh,
Well, all this food, I'm going to have to take a constitutional, otherwise I'm going to be getting a bit porky around the midriff, which is a problem that's happening anyway. So good
maybe
stroll.
I'll partake in the sea air. Take some in with a glass of wine.
Okay, so let's just say that Maxime and Francis, are nearby one another, not necessarily, walking together, but near enough that when Popoff arrives and comes strolling along, you're both near enough for him to kind of think you are together and engage you both in conversation at the same time. He comes across, as I say, he's a bit blustery, and he's very blustery, but then he kind of puts on this kind of grin, this kind of almost false grin like that. So, it's time to talk. Yes. And I would like to get to know you a little better. I take it personal pride to get to know my guests and to ensure that I am catering to your every need and expectations. And so I want to just check a couple of things, if you wouldn't mind. Will you be on the journey back with all of us? Yes?
Well, I was intending to be, yes.
Of course.
Yes. You see him get a little notebook out and he starts writing things down. And what is your interests on this trip?
I turn to Francis.
The one who hasn't really prepared a cover story. I'm afraid I can't really go into details. I'm afraid I'm on a case for a client.
Oh yes, that's
delicate.
Right. He's a private detective, quite a famous one actually. He won't even tell me anything.
Yes, one has to handle these situations very carefully. You don't want any unfortunate information getting out that could spoil the case, if you know what I mean, and sort of tap the side of my nose.
Related to Russia, a Russian person?
No. Could be quite scandalous for someone in the oh no, can't really say anymore. But hush.
Okay.
A gulp of wine at that. No, please, all right.
Can I have some sort of I'm lying roll?
Technically, I'm not, but
not lying that much. Just a little, I'm not. Just give me a. You can
oh God, what's mine?
Fast talk.
Dear Lord, I'm rubbish at all of them. Right, okay, this could be
I'm
embarrassingly awful.
I'm going to allow you a bonus side because technically you're only telling a half.
I'm telling a slight Forky.
lie.
Let me get my bonus die out. Where's it hiding? There we go. I'm going for persuade because it's one of the least worst, and I don't want to intimidate him.
Okay.
Can I spend 4 points of luck, please, to persuade him?
Yes. Okay. He buys your story if you spend the luck to make it a success. He then turns to Maxime and says, I wanted to ask whether you perform any official duties for your country.
Oh, well, I wouldn't call them duties. They are certainly pastimes that I enjoy doing. And
you are employed, though.
No. it's a little different in sort of my. Well, I came out of university a few years ago, and I spend my time doing things that I enjoy. I still learn things. I like to read, especially history, and I have very much studied for this journey and as much Russian as I can. But you see, I kind of try and steer away a bit and say, you see, my mother is Russian. That's why I'm on this journey.
He makes another note in his little book. I see. But you are wealthy, yes?
I look a little bit insulted at that, given I'm wearing quite an expensive outfit. Last time I checked my bank account, yes.
I see. And so do you have business interests in the Soviet Union?
No. Simply a holiday. And my mother wants me to try and seek out somebody that she used to know when she was a little younger, back when she lived here.
Do you have a name?
I do, actually. Let me just find that address she gave me. And sort of go through my pocket. Yes, she had a servant, or a maid, whatever you want to call them, Daria Lebevda.
He makes a note of that and says, but then reminds you that life in the Soviet Union now, where there are no slaves or servants.
Yes, of course.
Working for the common cause.
Absolutely. But at the time,
these archaic notions are no longer a part of our society.
Indeed.
And we would hope that all societies would be so enlightened.
Absolutely. But this was 20, 30 odd years ago, you understand.
Yes, back in the old days, as we like to say.
But yes,
Very
Daria
good.
Lebevda. Lebedva, even apologies.
Yes. And did you say where she may be in Russia?
I haven't written the address down out of character, but I do have the address.
You're
going
to say the address in Moscow?
Yeah.
Okay. He writes that all down and checks it with you. So this is the address, yes?
Yes. My mother believes that the daughter is still around. So
right. Very good. Well, I will endeavour to help you find her, he says with another false smile.
Wonderful.
And with that, he seems very pleased with himself. And bids you good day to go and collar another passenger that's just walked by. You overhear him asking pretty much the same questions again.
So.
I'm not sure, you might have told him a little bit too much there.
That was the point. I told him too much, so it sounds like there's less to hide.
Well, it's certainly a strategy.
Well, you with your wink, wink, nudge,
it's the exact opposite strategy, yes. But it's not entirely untrue. Particularly if this whole, if he is a bigamist, then...
Well, look, hopefully he'll spend all his time trying to find this girl and we can be off doing our own thing while he does that.
Yeah, that could potentially work as a strategy, yes.
Fingers crossed, eh? But by the way, I haven't seen any of you near my quarters.
That's because you're in first class and we're not.
Oh, I see. Did they give you the wrong tickets?
No, they didn't quite give us the tickets were a little bit too expensive for first class for the likes of me. And I'm assuming that the ladies had their reasons as well.
I see. Well, I could perhaps arrange for you all to be moved, should you want a little bit more luxury.
Oh, no, second class is actually quite nice. There's a strange old gentleman, Sir Felix Brearley, I think he said his name was. He's in third class. I would have much more have expected him to be up with the likes of you, up in first.
I didn't even know there was a third on this ship.
Yes.
Is he? Are you saying he might be a bit of a threat to the women?
No. It's just. I mean, people of your sort, do they normally travel in third class for a bit of an adventure, or is there usually another reason for doing it?
If anyone such as myself ever ended up in third class, it would either be because I was extremely drunk or it was for a dare.
Well, he doesn't entirely look the sort for going in for dares, but we'll see. Always waving at us.
How odd.
Francis, do you mention you just been speaking about the chap from third class, Mr. Felix Brearley,
Yes.
to Maxime by name?
Yes.
Maxime, could you make a no roll, please?
Oh. Am I acquainted with the choir master? Oh, okay. Probably very much so, yes. I got a 3.
Okay, well, the name rings a bell, especially when the Sir is mentioned, because you realise that this is the Sir Felix Brearley who is the conducted the D'Oyly Opera Company and the London Chorus.
That's a pretty big deal. Okay. Wait, do you mean?
Yep.
Sir Felix?
Well, that's what he said his name was. Yes.
The choral master.
Yes, that's what he said. He directed some choirs in London.
Some choirs, the London Chorus. That's quite an achievement.
I kind of look blankly.
It is one of the most renowned choruses in London.
It's lovely.
You don't just get there by turning up and waving your arms around.
With that kind of rolling...
Go on.
Sorry, I'm jumping in.
I was going to make some comment about the choirs in the Methodist chapel, but
fair enough.
They're a little bit more upmarket than that, shall we say?
I was just going to say, with that no roll being so good, you probably also know that he has a distinct interest in chess and is a pretty good mean chess player. So I don't know if Maxime enjoys a bit of a game of chess, but that is certainly, if you seek him out, is something that you would know to suggest if you want to play him. Basically.
Absolutely. He's not deeply into it, but he does like to play it. Every so often. It's a social game, so yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So he's a bit famous. This Sir Felix. So it's a little bit strange for him to be in third class.
Well, yes, absolutely. Famous in a certain community, a certain niche. Music is not my strong point at all, but I like to listen to the stuff. But yes, he's done all sorts of things. Third class, how odd. I wonder if something's happened. He hasn't been sacked, has he?
Well, I've never heard of him say so.
Tell me,
looked quite jolly.
He wasn't with anybody, was he? He's not taking a choir on tour to Russia, is he?
No, he didn't say so, no.
Odd that he's here by himself. Well, I'll certainly seek him out. He's a good chess player, I believe, so that will pass the time. Do you play chess, Francis?
Mostly dominoes.
Oh, yes, okay. I don't have any dominoes with me, unfortunately. Maybe they'll have some on the boat.
They might, yes. Yeah. Oh, actually, I forgot to pack mine as well. Never mind. Bit of a dab hand, actually.
No, they'll probably have some more Russian games, won't they?
I thought chess was Russian.
Well, yeah, no. Apart from chess, I'm talking about the dominoes.
Didn't really read much.
No. Well, there's some more lectures coming up, so perhaps we'll learn more about them then.
Well, indeed, funny you should say that. So I think only Eleanor was heading to the Lenin lecture, is that right? Oh, no, sorry, Georgina. There is I have a full page of text about what you learn in the Lenin lecture, which is very exciting. And I will be producing that as a handout and sending you that because I don't think everyone wants me to read about Lenin for half an hour. Suffice to say, it's very interesting if you want to know about Lenin.
Okay.
And, you do learn something, which is you have the new skill of history brackets Soviet Union, and you have 6% in it from this lecture.
Awesome. That's worth having. Okay, lovely. Is it very well attended, this lecture?
No, it's about you and two people basically. So you get a lot of attention.
Okay.
At one point, you think there may be a test at the end, but luckily there isn't.
Okay. Who's the instructor?
Oh, the instructor is Valeriu Marcu,
Okay.
a Romanian author who reads extracts from his recent book, The First Biography of the Soviet Leader, published by Victor Galantz. It's about an hour lecture, but it does run on because there's only 3 of you and he has a captive audience. So probably nearer 2 hours by the end of it.
So he's quite enthusiastic about his subject then.
Oh, we're very enthusiastic, yes. Because
Okay.
he's written a book on it, don't you know?
Okay. All right.
But
Yeah.
all jokes aside, he does know his stuff. So suffice to say, Lenin, led the country before Stalin took over. After Lenin died.
And
that's my quick summary of what the lecture tells you.
And I presume it is angled quite enthusiastically towards the new era of Russia and how wonderful everything is. Now they don't have dodgy capitalist leaders and distribution of wealth is good, etc., etc.
It's very positive.
Mm-hmm.
At this new society and so forth. I mean, he's Romanian, so he isn't Russian himself, but he is certainly caught up in the ideology and sees it as a very interesting thing and something worthy of attention at the very least. So those of you who took the Russian language class, which is everyone else, the first class is led by Laskin today, and he's a good teacher. He augments the class with focused conversations at other times during the day. Whenever he sees you thereafter, he will try a bit of Russian on you and test you out and try encourage you. So he's quite good. But he talks with the basics, and he's actually a really good teacher. He kind of gets an idea of what you know and tries to pitch whatever he does with you individually, at a level that would be of use to you. So in actual fact, you learn something useful, and you add 4% to your language Russian skill, such as
nice. There we go.
Whilst in there, I'm going to grab the others. Have you seen your ghost yet? I haven't seen my ghost. I'm getting very worried. I'm still clutching my jug.
I'm going to check that no one overheard that.
No, not a sight or sound.
Even if we had, we wouldn't be talking about it like this.
Yes, but what if he's back at my flat now?
Well, then he's safe and fine, isn't he? He's all right.
No, you don't understand. He has to get out of that place, out of the drowning, and back to us, back to him, back to me.
Well, we should try and sort of shuffle Eleanor off in a corner, so there is nobody overhearing this, and just generally try and calm her down. Is it well, did he like boats when he was alive?
You're not understanding where they are now, with the treading on the water.
Yes, I know, but maybe he doesn't want to be on a boat if he didn't like them in real life. I mean, I'm not exactly fond of them myself, but, so it's not necessarily somewhere I'd particularly want to turn up after I was dead, if that makes sense.
Well, I had no idea. The only time he went on a boat was when he went to France to fight. I never saw him after that. Well, other than when I saw him.
Well, Maybe he's just waiting until you settle down and we've got our feet and our sea legs. That's the one, isn't it? And then maybe once
settle down, I don't know if I've just abandoned him. I don't know if I'll ever see him again now because of this trip.
Well, I'm sure you'll see him again at some point. I mean, sooner rather than later, or later rather than sooner. But I'm sure you'll see him again one day. But I don't think getting upset about it's going to help, is it? I mean, if he thinks you're agitated, he might stay away in case it makes it worse.
Very good point.
I'm sure it will be all come out all right in the end, Eleanor. You know, we were living our lives without our loved ones, and we're doing our best to help them and find them. I'm sure they know that. But to be honest, I mean, Robert seemed to, he said that it was as if no time had passed. So I don't think that they are sitting, waiting and stressing.
That's a good point, yes.
Well, maybe not while they're away, but what if he comes back and he comes back to the flat and we're not there?
Well, I'm sure he probably just thinks you popped out to work. And then if he goes away again, then he's not going to know how long you've been away, is he? It's what Miss Sullivan said. They don't seem to understand how time passes here. So it'll be like you'd popped out of the room and then you came back again for him.
So none of you have seen your ghost, even since the meeting. I haven't seen him in weeks.
No, but do bear in mind that they do tend to appear at least near to where we are at the time. So surely they must be sort of aware about where we are.
I'm trying hard not to think too much about it, for there is nothing I can do about it.
Well, have you brought your I'm calling it my anchor, my jug of water from the sink? It's always water, isn't it? So do you not have one?
You don't want to drink that.
I'm not drinking it, you fool. It's for Mark.
I don't really recall there being something like that. For Robert, I did make him a cup of tea and there was a tap running, but we're surrounded by water. We're on the ocean.
But this is water from my sink.
Then I am sure that if he is going to materialize, then he will materialize close to the water from your sink that is with you. I think it is far more likely he's drawn to you than he's drawn to the water in a sink.
Yes, of course.
I'll do my very best to be calming and kind, maybe give her a little, hug on the shoulder, because she's obviously in a bit of a state. And
yeah, I'm keeping a very careful eye out to see just how much attention we're attracting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, not greatly. I mean, everyone's, it's a big enough ship that you're not in each other's pockets in that way. So there's plenty of opportunities if you're just having a quiet chat amongst yourselves. That's unlikely to be overheard. Obviously, if you remember, I think Mr. Hill may have mentioned that the people on this tour, the Russians, are probably all members of the Russian Secret Service. So just to be careful what you say to those. But I'll let you know if somebody appears to be standing nearby, overhearing or so forth. But at this point in time, no. So you're okay. The evening's music performance tonight is piano and violin arrangements. Prokofiev's Violin Concerto No. 1 D minor. And also some Symphony No. 1 in F minor, which are all very lovely if you want to sit in the saloon and listen to those, which most of the people do, because let's face it, there's not a lot else happening on the boat in terms of extravagance. Certainly no casino or anything. So when that night, funnily enough, Eleanor gets to her room, standing outside is her brother.
Dropping the vase immediately, I go to hug him.
Okay. He was about to say, "What are you doing with that jug of water?" But that's, discarded as you both hug. He says, "Oh, it's so good to see you again."
Oh, thank God you're here. I was so worried that you wouldn't be.
Where are we? We're
We're
going
on a
somewhere,
boat.
aren't we?
Yes, we're going to Russia.
Really? How interesting. Why?
Come into the cabin. Let's talk.
Okay.
I'll go inside
You
the cabin.
just out of interest, while it's fairly quiet on deck, there was another person, another nameless passenger, heading towards their cabin, and from the look, it's clear that they saw both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know,
Okay.
you head inside the cabin, and so why are you going to Russia?
I close the door and well, I think we've established that you did die, and I got this letter from somebody in Russia saying that they know that I talk to a dead loved one. Well, that's you, Mark, and they knew that, so I wanted to find out more.
Yes. Well, I have questions too. How did I get here? Because I don't remember anything, you see.
But Mark, you must remember one thing: when you are in the water, you must come back. You said last time you said you think you knew how to get back, but it has been weeks.
No, I saw you. It was an hour at most. I don't know ago.
For me,
but
weeks have passed.
You've made a lot of progress since I saw you in the room. You must have already been packed to leave.
No, Mark, for me, weeks have passed.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm here now. It doesn't matter.
I know, and I fear you're going to fade away again, and there's nothing I could do to stop it.
But I'm here now, and I'm sure I will be again. Calm yourself down. No need to be upset. I'm sure it'll all be fine. There was the water. Yes, I think it's like a lake. I think there was noises. There was some sort of animal sound. I seem to remember that. I just heard it in the distance.
An underwater animal?
No, it was like a wolf or something, howling. So the lake must be in the countryside. But there aren't any wolves left in England, are there?
Well,
perhaps it's France.
You died in Amiens, so.
But are there any in France? I thought. Well, there must be wolves somewhere. I mean, in remote places, perhaps, still.
Well, ironically, some in Russia. I'm going to get to the bottom of this, Mark. I'm going to help you back here.
Yes. Well, if you do that, and I try and work out where I've been, then perhaps together we put our heads together and we can solve this thing and see why. And I'm sure I'll see you again. So you kind of turn your head very briefly, and he's gone. He just instantly
No, not again!
Could I have a sanity roll, please?
I'm going to hit the wall of the cabin regardless.
Yeah, sure.
Oh dear.
You failed that, did you?
Well, technically there's no answer there because all of my dice are saying 0, so obviously I haven't rolled them. They're still saying 0.
Nice try.
I've heard that excuse before.
The good news is you've now reached your maximum that you can kind of lose from these visits at this point in time. So you only lose 1 point of sanity.
Oh, that's okay then.
Oh, it's very handy getting used to the awfulness.
And the bad news?
Sorry again.
You said that was the good news.
That was the
bad
good news. Oh, the bad news is he's gone, which you're
I
clearly
see.
upset about.
Yes, no, I'm actually going to punch the wall of the cabin.
Okay, can I have a strength roll, please, to see how strong that punch is?
Sure.
You are pretty heads up.
That is a hard pass.
Hard pass. You dent the wall. You don't bash through, but you dent. There's a few knuckle marks in the wall, and your hand hurts a little bit.
Yeah. She's definitely going through the anger part of grief at this moment in time. And stomps around the room for a bit. She's very angry and huffing and puffing, and after a while, sort of barges out of the cabin, door swinging wildly, and storms off to the front of the ship and just kind of looks out to sea, thunder on her face.
Sure. Well, you stew for a while, and then eventually the cold air gets the better of you, and you head in and turn in for the night. And unfortunately, as are the rest of you, your dreams are troublesome tonight, particularly. And Eleanor, yes, you dream of your brother, but you dream of this kind of black lake in the kind of like a wilderness. There are kind of trees in the distance. It's difficult, it's vague, it's not, you can't pinpoint it, but I mean, if you want to say it could be Russia, could be Alaska, but it's that kind of cold place. And there are the sound of wolves gathering in the forest, howling at the moon, which might on one hand be quite picturesque and nice. However, for you, it's very foreboding and doom laden. And the rest of you similarly just dream about your visitor, and just, your visitor in a bad light, or a bad memory, or an upsetting memory, or whatever it may be, that just kind of like, bothers you in your dreams, basically. But not, they're not severe nightmares, but they are troublesome, and you get sleep, but it's not great sleep. It's not deep sleep in that sense. But dawn comes on day 3 of your voyage, the 29th of October. And today, after breakfast, there is an interesting array of activities for you, which includes a lecture, which is entitled The Battlefield of Everyday Life, which clearly is a must, being performed by Professor Stenning. And there are also more Russian language classes. In fact, I think there's 2 separate classes today on the Russian language. I'll just double check that. There we go.
I have to say, the battlefield of everyday life just sounds far too dramatic. So
it's very avant-garde.
Yeah, I may do a language class, or I may just sketch above decks with Grace and see what happens.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Anyone wanting to go?
I'm going to stick
lecture?
with the language class, I think, because that lecture just sounds.
I mean, who knows what you could learn at this lecture? I'm just saying, who knows?
well, much going against his gut instincts, Maxime is wanting to kind of show his face at the lecture to kind of support Stenning and maybe learn a bit about him as well. So he's going to go. Maybe have a bit of whiskey beforehand, but he's going to go.
Sounds a very wise precaution. And Eleanor, are you attending either of those, or?
Yes, I am. In actual fact, by the morning, and having now seen Mark again after all this time, I'm actually quite calm. I've not got the vase with me, or the jug, and I'll attend the language class and be a lot happier.
Very good. Okay, that sounds great. What we're going to do, we shall take a quick 10-minute tea break at this point. I'm saying loudly so our technical support, David, tonight will jump in at this point and put a little break sign up. But we will return with the great boons that you will get from your classes today, as well as an interesting conversation with Mr. Laskin. Okay, so. Hello, and we're back. Okay, so it is day 3, isn't it? I'm looking at you all. Yes, it is. Day 3. So we will deal with your classes first. So those of you who attend the language class this day, you find that it is being delivered by Mr. Popoff, the other guide, who I'm afraid isn't quite so good a teacher. He's very abrupt, interrupts, is very impatient that you can't all speak fluent Russian straight away, and as a consequence, you only get 2% increase in your language Russian skill today.
I'm glad I went and sketched on deck.
Not the Lenin lecture, the Battlefield of Everyday Life lecture. Again, I will put a handout detailing the contents of the lecture up on the group for you. But Professor Stenning provides an engaging and thought-provoking and sometimes contentious talk about what to look at in the Soviet Union and how to look at it in possibly a favourable light, and does raise questions about the new regime's various actions and policies. He's quite a dynamic speaker, so it's quite, it is quite engaging for Maxime. However, it does go on a bit and starts talking about the 5-year economic plans and industrialization of the country, so forth and so forth. But I won't go on. But Maxime can add, because he's, he knows his stuff, 8% to the skill history brackets Soviet Union.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, on deck, while all this learning is happening, there's some good drawing going on, and you are chatting away with Grace, and she, you tend to find that she's a little easily distracted, and once you ask her a question, she'll just put down the pad and start chatting away, and very interesting what you're doing, giving you tips that you don't really appreciate probably, but generally quite nice, and chatting about the fact that that Popov, he's a funny one, don't you know?
He seems very typically Russian to me, and he's got a great face, good jawline.
Yes, he's got a big moustache. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little kind of character sketch of Popoff and kind of show her to giggle at, with an extended moustache that goes all the way to the edges of the paper.
Very good. Well, while you're drawing that, you hear a bit of a snigger from behind, and you see Laskin comes up kind of behind, kind of having seen what you've drawn, sort of laughing, and just sort of points and goes, "Oh, very good, ha ha ha, very good." And he seems quite genuinely amused by it. And,
it's not a mean portrait. It's a little bit of a caricature.
Yeah. But he finds it amusing, and he kind of like sort of sits down near to you both, and he says, "I was looking for you actually, Miss Georgina. Do you know the passenger, Mr. Ball, and Elliot, and Miss Wright, perhaps? Do you know them well, or?"
I have met them. Yes, they are reasonably convivial companions on this delightful cruise.
I was wondering if I might catch you all together, but it seems that they maybe are taking classes at this time.
Yes, I think they were very eager to extend their knowledge of the Russian language.
Oh, very good, very good. There's always an admirable quality in people, I find. Yes, I wanted to say, did you know that he sort of quietens down a little bit conspiratorially and says, "Did you know your visas are a little unusual?" Did Comrade Popov not tell you?
No, a friend organised them for me. Well, organised mine for me. What's unusual about them?
Well, you see, they've been approved by a man named Arkadij Krylov on behalf of the deputy chairman of the OGPU himself. I thought Popov may have mentioned it to you, but perhaps not. You see, the reason it is unusual is that Krylov is, you might say, an unusual man. You know, he is. He goes very quiet at this point. He says, he's rumored to have studied magic.
Goodness me.
He's in Siberia, Berlin, Moscow, and London, they say. He's said to be a Koldun, you know, a wizard, sorcerer, yes?
Oh, yeah, I am aware that there are such legendary people in our histories.
Yes, he's sort of nodding and says, yes, well.
I didn't know there were any still practicing today.
Oh, the Koldun, yeah. Well, they are a legend in northern Russia. In the south, they call them the Vedma, you know, the witch.
Right.
But he said they say Krylov had a circle of people in Moscow, but he has not been in the public eye for many a year. Some say he disappeared, but I heard he was still in Moscow, maybe working with the government. I shouldn't be saying these things, of course, but it's all rumor, and you know, as I say, to have his name mentioned is strange. I wondered whether you had heard the name. You see?
No, indeed, I have not. But I mean, if my visa was approved by him, presumably he must be working with the government in Moscow.
Yes. Well, the other people I mentioned, they are, you would say, your friends?
Oh, yes. You know, they are convivial people. They have, yeah. I mean, we're all friends now.
Yes. Well, that is good. Perhaps you might pass on this information to your friends in case one of them is aware of this Krylov.
I shall certainly ask them, yes. It's quite exciting having a sorcerer stamp my visa. I may have to draw something. So is he sort of like our British Merlin? Do you know who I mean by that?
Yes. The Merlin and the King Arthur. Yes, the sword. Yes, and the stone.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. I know of this. And but no, he's not like Merlin. He more strange. How you say? I think weird may be the word.
Right.
The Koldun. Many dark legends of the Koldun.
I see.
This man seems to know of you. Seems to know of you as because none of the other guest visas had his name associated with them, and there must be a reason he took an interest. And I tell you this not to frighten you or just to be aware. If a Koldun has his eyes on you, then not good things will come of this. But I'm sure it is all just hearsay and rumor and nothing to be taken too seriously.
Thank you so much for your concern. I do appreciate it as a woman traveling alone, and I shall do my most charming, young lady artist. Thank you very much. Smile at him.
And he's about to turn to go, and he turns back and says, "Oh, one other thing I hear on the radio: American stock market crash, billions lost, they say." But it does not affect us. Good day. And wanders off.
Aha. Yes. Well, I know a few people whom the American stock market crashing is going to affect. I suspect probably Maxime is going to be one of them, although he's not a businessman. I shall see if I can find the others and
yeah, you
no.
probably just before that evening's dinner, once the classes are finished and so forth, and you can probably, if you want, gather them to a separate table during dinner if you want to have a chat kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's say you are there doing that now.
So it was the captain, wasn't it, that told me?
No, it was Laskin.
No, Laskin, the guide that seems friendly and nice.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, I don't trust him as far as we could spit him.
Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Laskin, kind of noticed something about my visa and apparently about yours too. They seem to have been stamped by someone at head office who has a reputation as a magician, and not a particularly children's party style magician, let us say.
So we're not talking Harry Houdini here then?
No.
Sawing people in half?
No. There seems to be some sort of, I don't know, it almost seems like some sort of kind of folk ritual, old witch. He mentioned cult, I don't know, called the Colden.
At that point, Maxime, could you make a no roll?
Yep. Has my mother been telling me scary stories? Apparently not. No, they were quite dull and boring.
Okay, the name rings a bell. You don't. Yeah, you clearly don't remember all the details, but you just know it's got something to do with demons and wizards, and maybe being born of a demon and a human produces a wizard or something like that. You seem to remember, but the details are a bit vague and it escapes you at this point in time.
Oh, that sounds like peasant nonsense to me. But I did want to apologise for my behaviour yesterday. I was feeling out of sorts. I have since seen Mark.
There you go. I said you'd see him sooner, didn't I?
Oh, that is good. Don't worry about it at all, but I'm so glad that your mind has been put at rest.
It does suggest that, as you thought, that they're bound to us.
Well, this whole talking of magicians has, I don't know, given this a slightly different aspect.
You don't suppose that he's the man who told Mrs. Palliser about us, do you? If he's supposed to be some strange magician.
Laskin seemed to think that he wasn't a particularly, he wasn't a jolly, friendly type of chap. He was more a scary, sinister type of chap. Mike, are we going to be aware of, say, Rasputin? He was legendary and sort of earlier. His kind of
I think. Well, you may not know everything. No. I think we will say that his name appeared in relation to the Tsarina and Tsar, pre and perhaps during World War I, during the Great War, when particularly when Russia pulled out in 1917, there was probably a lot of press about Russia pulling out, and therefore a lot of press about the Tsar and so forth, and the Bolsheviks, and the run up to that. Certainly, I would imagine Rasputin's name was mentioned once or twice. That he was English press. I'm gonna just make a general bold guess and say that certain press called him some sort of mystic guru. Others that he was a highly connected priest with connections to the Tsar and their family. So kind of both ends of the scale, but somebody famous, as it were.
So I'll sort of killed. Yeah. So I don't know if he's some sort of Rasputin type, some sort of mystical.
Oh. nobody here believes that sort of nonsense, do they?
Well, I didn't believe, but I'd see people who were a year dead and be able to kind of hold them tight, to be perfectly
Yes,
honest.
but that's not a cult nonsense. They're obviously, God is giving them another chance from heaven. I mean,
yes,
they've earned their place to come back.
I think if you're going to kind of take the idea that people will come back from heaven, we have to also accept that there's going to be an other place.
What could that have to do with this?
The thing I'm more concerned about is our visas last for a whole year, which gives this person a year to potentially meet us.
But I'm not going to be in Russia for a year. I thought they all came like that.
Well, I'm just passing it on. Apparently, we seem to be the only people who have a visa that has been stamped by this particular person.
That is concerning indeed.
I don't know. What do you think, Francis? Does it sound fishy to you, or do you think it's just...
Well, I mean, the whole thing's been fishy from start to finish, but yes, I think we need to keep our eye on him. Whoever he is, if he's working high up in the Russian government, then yes, we need to be careful. I mean, we need to be careful anyway. This just confirms it, really.
I mean, we haven't had a letter from him personally. He's literally just stamped the visa.
But if you remember, Mrs. Palliser did mention that she'd been told about us by a man who knew what we could do.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I'm not saying it definitely is him, but it would sort of make a warped kind of sense.
Possibly. I mean, I'm not entirely sure I believe in magic, but I certainly believe in like folkloric traditions, and there is some very odd things happening right now.
Well, I wouldn't have said I particularly believed in guardian angels until Uncle Harry turned up the other week. And he seems to think that's what he is.
Oh, my word, is this all a folly? I mean, if what you're saying is true, then, and he's working for the other side, are we being lured here to stop our loved ones coming back from heaven?
Well, I don't think... if your loved one is in heaven, do you really want them to leave? I mean,
Absolutely.
Isn't that sort of like the goal for us all to get to heaven?
Oh gosh, I'd never thought of that.
But well,
he didn't describe it as a very heavenly place. A lake surrounded by trees with wolves in the background.
No,
Is the sound of
it doesn't sound like heaven.
Well,
that almost sounds like some ancient Viking heaven.
He, on previous visits, he mentioned that he was trying to get back here when he was there.
Well, I would have thought that if one was in heaven, one would be very happy and not want to leave.
Well, maybe they're in purgatory. I mean, if they really are guardian angels, maybe they...
Don't say such things.
Well, I can't say that Robert was, any saint, but that's a bit harsh.
We're all speculating here anyway.
This is very true. You're correct, Maxime. We are speculating.
I just thought I'd better pass the information on just in case.
Yes, and you're right to do so. This is concerning.
Maxime,
I'm not big on the whole God thing anyway, but the fact that somebody strange has stamped our visas, that is concerning.
And this talk, Maxime, of heaven and hell, and your feelings about Edward, feelings of guilt, and kind of, plays on your mind certainly at this point, and probably the rest of you. While you won't pick up exactly what's going on, but you will sense that Maxime probably either withdraws a bit or gets a little bit head or angry at just at the tone of his voice rather than anything big, but certainly reacts a little bit to this kind of conversation perhaps.
I tried to distract his attention by asking him something that I meant to ask him before and I've only just remembered. My Uncle Harry mentioned a word and it sounded pretty Russian. I don't suppose you might know what it means. I haven't been able to find it in my phrase book. Zolozhny?
Zoloshny.
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
I turn to the fountain of all knowledge that is the keeper. Do I know this word?
You check your phrase book just in case, but it doesn't ring any bells, and you don't know it, and it's not in your phrase book.
I've not heard of it. What was the context of this word?
Oh, well, not wishing to frighten the young ladies, but he just said that we should stay away from them.
Ah, so they are an organization of sorts?
That's it. I don't know. He didn't seem entirely certain. He just said we had to stay away from them, whoever they were, or whatever they were.
Could the sorcerer be a Zoloshny?
That would make some sense.
He didn't mention the word. Laskin didn't say anything about Zoloshny.
Perhaps it's almost a bit like our, the masonries, the Freemasons.
Sort of secret society.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you're pondering, a lovely dinner of spicy lamb broth and beetroot and bread with 3 types of butter is served, again with vodka, welcomingly, and this evening's entertainment is pretty much a kind of some various pieces of music on I was going to say banjo, but it's not banjo, on piano, violin and cello from the 3 different kind of musicians.
Do you mean a balalaika?
Oh, more likely, but it isn't one of those either. It's piano, cello and violin, and some of them do solos, some of them play together and that kind of thing, but it's nothing it's just some variations this evening.
Was that a Freudian slip of what we can expect in the future? I'll have a deliverance.
If only. I don't know. Let you think about that. You do, Maxime, you do get confirmation via Laskin will at some point bump into you.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of repeats what you've just heard from Georgina, so nothing new. But he does also repeat that the Wall Street crash is currently happening. And I don't know how that may impact on you or not, whether you have any investments or whether it's really just, family money that's in assets and banks and whatnot.
I would imagine more the latter. It's possible that my father would have a few stocks and shares, and certainly some of his friends from university would possibly have some, if they went over to America, but he himself isn't particularly financially affected.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
With if there's any run on banks and so forth, but I'm sure it'll all be fine. You're on the sea and the ocean. What could possibly, be wrong? So it'll all be fine. It'll probably blow over in a couple of days. So nothing to worry about. Anyway, day 3 passes into day 4 with some odd dreams at night, but we won't loiter on those for too long. Day 4, there is a lecture on the structure and government of the Soviet Union, if I have any takers.
You're selling these so well, Mike.
Oh, well, I know I'm going to have to take one for the team, aren't I, at this point?
Yeah,
yes.
short straw for you.
or Mr. Laskin is doing another Russian class.
Oh, no. Did you see Miss Sullivan and Mr. Maxime have basically already taken some of the heavy weight. So I'm gonna, because I am slightly intrigued to find out how they're doing this. Forewarned is forearmed, particularly if it might tell us who the weird guy is that's signed our visas, if nothing else, where he might fit into the structure.
Why can't we have exciting things about folklore and art?
Such privileges. Have no place in the modern Soviet system. Okay, so day 4 is pretty uneventful. The
those of you who do attend Mr. Laskin's Russian class are rewarded with another 4% in their Russian language skill.
Hooray.
And Lynne, Francis has a heady time in the structure and government of the Soviet Union, which is a 90-minute lecture rather than the advertised hour.
Oh God!
Given by Mr. Henry Milne of the Daily Herald, one of your fellow passengers. The lecture is rather dry. It doesn't speak of morality or democratic process. He takes questions and talks and basically starts discussions, then goes into great detail in monologues about what he knows about the Soviet system. You get the drift very quickly that he's quite impressed by the Soviet system. And one might almost think he's an adherent to that style of politics or political system.
Well, I'm kind of getting the idea that they probably wouldn't be letting him give talks if he wasn't.
Yes. But again, I'll put the handout on the page so you can enjoy that at your leisure.
You spoil us, Mike.
This and the next session. That's your homework. But the good news is you do get 4% to a history Soviet Union skill.
And Georgina's going to attempt a Blake-like watercolor of kind of inspired a little bit by thoughts of wizards and kind of icy wastes and things, and just that sort of slightly strange pen and ink, but with very faint watercolors of kind of dark figure beckoning across the ocean kind of thing.
Oh right, yeah, very pretentious, I would say.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, well, you mainly spend the day working on that with helpful advice and critique from Grace, who clearly enjoys your company very much because she now seems to be glued to your side most of the day. The dinner is some clear fish soup with leek and then some poached beef.
Leeks! Oh, familiar territory.
With cabbage and sour cream and more vodka. There is a film again tonight. So the film is October, 10 Days That Shook the World, a depiction of the 1917 revolution. An actor plays Lenin and with the various key events played out. Those of you who sat through Battleship Potemkin feel this is not as good as that film. However, an interesting diversion for the night. Day 4 passes into day 5, and there is a formal party with in the music lounge with the captain present. Grace looks strikingly attractive at this occasion. Sir Felix, but also Mr. Stenning appear very well dressed. Henry Milne is not bothered to really dress up for this one, still wearing his shabby suit and flat cap. And there are two musicians who are playing some Stravinsky, some of the Rite of Spring, in fact, on piano and violin. And then that's followed by some traditional Russian airs on an accordion. And that's Balalakia as well. Yes. So it's a quiet day. You were kind of left to your own devices. I'm pretty sure if somebody wanted to get a game of chess in, they could do so. It's Felix, a chess player, isn't it? Yeah. So if anyone wants to have a chat with Felix and play a bit of chess, you can do. Do I have any takers for chess?
Yep.
Maxime, okay. You have a pleasant afternoon playing chess. Is there anything you want to bring up during the game conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. More curiosity than nosiness, but trying to work out why he's here by himself. There's no choir or musicians he's bringing with him. There's no composers or anything like that. So just sort of general chit chat, but why is he here?
Okay. He seems pretty forthcoming, and he says basically he's interested to visit Russia. He's always wanted to visit Moscow. He's always wanted to see the cathedral and so forth. And when the revolution happened, he thought he would never be able to fulfill this dream. Having lived and played and worked in various historic capital cities around the world, Russia's certainly Moscow is not one he's ever had the opportunity to do that in. So when the in-tourist scheme started very recently, he's jumped at the chance to take what he thinks may be one of the few opportunities to get into Russia, what with the Bolsheviks and Stalin and so forth, and that and he seems pretty genuine. I mean, you can, if you want to make a psychology roll, you're very welcome to do, but he just seemed to be pretty genuine.
I will take his word for it then, since my psychology is terrible.
And he likewise, he basically says the same thing to you in terms of why are you going. He's very enthusiastic, and when you answer, he's very much oh yes, of course, that kind of conversation going, very kind of engaging and hanging on your words. Do you say anything particular? I'm just kind of guessing you're saying you're going on holiday, but it's up to you.
Holiday, finding an acquaintance, that kind of thing, but not really much more than that.
He kind of, when you start talking about acquaintance and probably mention your mother and so forth, he's very interested in that, and we'll question you about that. But he just genuinely comes across as how interesting, to have that connection and to go back to to where the roots are is it's you should treasure the experience and all that kind of thing. And it all comes over as very as I say, very genuine. But he plays a mean chess, and I'm going to get you to make an opposed roll with him, see who wins. Let me check what his stuff is. There we are. So let's make an int roll, opposed int roll.
Okay. Oh, nice.
If I rolled,
do you want the actual number,
help,
or is a hard success okay?
You made a hard success.
Yes.
You distract him and you beat him.
Checkmate, sir.
Only just, but you do beat him, and he's quite surprised. But he is, as he just said, I am an amateur, and clearly, sir, I have been bested, and I doff my hat to you, and I would be honoured for a rematch at any time.
Absolutely.
And seems you have impressed him. So there you go. Very good. So where are we? Okay. So is anyone seeking out anyone or anything at this point in time, or shall I move on?
Yes, I'd like to seek out the journalist guy.
Mr. Milne, Henry Milne. Yeah. Yes, it's hello. Where's your jug of water?
I was just holding it. It's
it looked like you were being quite careful with it, like it was something quite precious. I was a little concerned. I thought for one moment I thought it was full of vodka. That was why I was kind of interested, to be honest. Why I came over.
To be honest,
we're dotting it out. So
having not sailed before, I was a little nervous and perhaps a little over nervous. I'm very sorry for I was just a little, I suppose, neurotic.
At that, he bangs whatever wall or deck he's standing next to quite loudly. Bang, bang, bang. Russian built, solid as stone. Nothing to worry about in this ship. This will never sink, this vessel. Oh, no.
Well,
Famous last words.
I was curious about that. You are you said you were writing something on Rush, a novel, wasn't it? It was a novel. Or was
No. I'm writing pieces for the Herald on the tour, the organisation, and the tour experience itself, highlighting the what Stalin and the Russian state is doing to open its doors to the world, to show the endeavors and the great progress the Russian people are making in shining a light to the world of what could be.
Yes, you're sounding quite enthused.
Oh, indeed, I am. Yes, I believe what they're doing over in Russia is fantastic. Yes, I can't, having not been, I can't wait to see the Soviet ideal in action.
Well, that's I am, because I'm just trying to remember which paper I said I worked for, because I thought it was the Herald as well. But
it may well
I don't
be.
know. It was a few weeks ago.
It is entirely up to you. The big newspaper says, we know each other. So, yeah.
So, what floor do you work on?
Oh, I'm on the second floor.
Oh, that's why I've not bumped into you, because I'm on the Herald too.
No, don't no. Say they haven't sent us both on this, have they?
No. I am here purely on holiday. I didn't know we were even covering this.
Oh, so you so this is of your own free will?
Yes.
Fantastic. I didn't realize I had a kindred spirit at work. This is fantastic.
Do you speak any Russian?
Just a little, enough to get by. Hopefully, I'm hoping to pick a little more up. As of course, I saw you at one of the language classes I've been attending as much as I can.
Yes, I'm doing better at it. That's probably better than my French already, to be honest. So,
go on, call him comrade. It'll make sense.
It's definitely not Doverish, that's for sure. I tell you, just out of character here, what I'm curious about is there seems to be a person for each of us, and I haven't figured out why.
I can guess.
Perhaps just good planning. I don't know. Or not. Maybe there's more to it.
And that's kind of what I want to get an answer on, but I don't really know how to probe for it. Perhaps I'll see you around, maybe a dinner or something.
Oh, absolutely. We should have a drink at some point and compare notes. Have you worked with Smithy?
No, different. I'm in the news section, so.
Probably a good thing then, eh?
From what I hear, yes. But on the other hand, I have to deal with Carruthers. So.
No, of course. Well, we should have a vodka, comrade, sometime.
Indeed, comrade.
And yes, he goes on his merry way. Any more before I move on slightly?
Has Grace ever tried to kind of pump me for information, or because I've just tried to kind of keep everything very arty with her? Has she ever sort of, given me a bit of third degree, or has she been quite happy to just talk art and mutual exhibition spaces?
The latter. She hasn't, other than being trying a bit of gossip out once or twice and not really getting anywhere. She just does seem to be an arty type person that, other than kind of wanting to know all your business.
Yeah.
Not beyond that, not at a deep level, just, she's not asking you, other than, why did you decide to take this trip? That kind of level, rather than,
Tell me everything.
Leading questions.
Yeah, not like that. No.
Okay. Cool.
I might do one thing.
Yeah.
Try and keep it as casual as possible and totally not blurt it out of the blue, which is very tempting to do given I've just found out information. But I'll probably go to Stenning at some point about this Calden organization, probably just talking over a drink, saying my mother used to tell me stories about this and query if he knows anything about them.
The Calden, yeah?
Yeah, the Calden.
Sorry, did you say Luskin or?
No, Stenning.
Stenning, sorry. Okay. Let me just double check Stenning's.
I figure going to one of the
Russian
Russians would be
history.
a bit too suspicious at this point.
Right, okay, just bear 1 sec. Yeah, that's what I thought. He says, never heard of them. I haven't got a clue. What are they? What is it? I mean, is it people, organization, business?
Like I said, my mother used to tell me stories about them, but
Stories?
yes, in folklore, I believe they were a sect of witches or wizards. Just wondered if you knew anything about them.
Oh, good God, no, I haven't. No, I'm not a reader of fiction. More of a
your mind's firmly
non-fiction
planted
fellow,
in reality.
you
I
understand.
see. Yes. Okay.
Yes. No. He brushes you off and very clear. He's not got a clue what you're talking about.
Okay.
And thinks you're slightly strange now. But other than
Wives.
I don't know whether to be relieved or disappointed.
Anyway, as I say, that evening there is a formal party, and during the party, it's you get a chance to kind of catch up with yourselves, and these other characters, Popoff and Luskin are there. Captain, who basically just carries on glad handing everyone. Clearly, he can speak English, but not only so far, and he kind of runs out after kind of hello, welcome, you're enjoying yourself, good, carry on, and such and such thereafter. It's quite a good party. It's the drink is pretty free flowing if you like vodka, and they have the kind of doors open so people can kind of get a bit of air from time to time, or have a little wander on deck, that kind of thing. As the night falls and the stars in the heavens gives a lovely kind of view. I don't know if any of you are maybe taking in a bit of stargazing during the evening or not.
Absolutely.
I'd certainly wander out for a bit of fresh air.
Georgina, are you likely to be doing that?
Definitely. I've been entertaining myself by drawing little, little caricatures of the guests and the crew, and if they're, and if they seem entertained, I'll kind of tear them off and give them to them. But I'm now, I just want a bit of wide open space. Okay,
so it's are you still likely to be around doing this about, I don't know, 11, half 11? Party's still going on.
If the stars are nice, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So let's say it's about 11:30. You are on deck watching the stars. Mm-hmm. Is anyone with you? Could be anyone from the other,
I've popped out for a cigarette.
Yeah. I mean, I have no doubt that the ubiquitous Grace will probably be hovering somewhere
nearby. Yeah. Okay.
I'll have a cigar, I think.
Okay, so you're
and I'll offer Francis one as well.
Yeah, so you're not
thank you, Mr. Elliot. Don't mind if I do.
Cool.
Not a problem, Mr. Ball.
I left out not being there now, so I guess I will.
So you're all out on the deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Group conference.
That's fine.
Meeting.
Okay. And Grace is nearby, loitering. Okay. but other than that, it's just the 5 of you. You sit there, you are kind of idly chatting, just taking in the quiet as well, the distant strains of the music and chatter coming, down the deck towards the saloon and so on. Georgina, you are kind of, just from kind of being a bit quiet, looking at the stars, and you turn and look down, maybe towards where the saloon is, down the deck, and at that point in time you see your dead fiance Robert Whitworth walking towards you. Can I have a sanity roll, please?
Yes, you can. Not least because my first thought is, oh my god, how am I going to explain that to Grace? Okay, that's yeah. Hang on, I have to roll over my sanity now.
No,
under
it.
Oh, that's good. I rolled a 5.
Oh wow, that's very good. That's very good. So you're gonna lose 1 point.
Wow.
But just enough for you to just be shocked and maybe let out a little bit of a gasp. Which I don't know if any of you.
Is everything all right, Miss Sullivan?
And just, okay, I'm going to whisper to Francis that it's Robert. And
I'm looking where she's pointing.
And there is a man walking towards you.
Okay.
You haven't seen him on deck, on the boat previously.
I don't know if this makes you feel any better, Miss Sullivan, but I can see him too.
Oh.
Is that who I think it is?
Yes.
And literally as this, second passes as you say these things, Robert arrives amidst you saying, looking excited and seemingly not really taking notice of your kind of shock, says, "Oh, there you are."
Yes, indeed. Isn't this lovely? I'm looking to see if Grace is nearby. Is she within like vocal distance? Will she have noticed this?
Yeah, she's watching you and Robert.
Oh,
with intent, and you can see it. You can see her face is kind of question mark above her head, going like, "Who's that?"
Yeah, it being small ship, and there not having been any dashing young man.
Is that your ghost? Should I go distract Gracie?
I'll nod frantically.
Okay, I'll head over to Gracie and I'll start asking her questions about art.
Okay, she engages with you, but every now and again you see her eyes looking back. Just
she'll see it, but she won't be able to hear it because I'll talk over it.
That's perfect. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to sort of try and shield Robert a little bit from Grace whilst introducing him to Francis and Maxime.
Yeah, I'm quite excited to see whether I can actually shake this gentleman's hand, actually.
Yes.
Okay, well, you can. It is physical. He nods and says, "How do you do?" But very clearly, it's very perfunctory to yourself and Maxime, and then his attention is turned back to Georgina. Even though you're standing right there, he's looking at Georgina, and kind of you are now not in his field, not in his whatever. And he says pretty much straight out, I think me being here means we're destined always to be together, don't you?
Yes, obviously, darling, I do. Even on a boat in the middle of the Russian Sea, my grasp of geography is not fantastic.
It seems to, that kind of last comment almost seems to go over his head, or he may not have really taken it in, because he just said, "This is good, isn't it? You do think so? I think so. Something's definitely happened."
Absolutely. Whatever it is, seeing you again is wonderful. And it is so lovely to see him again. But, you know, beautiful starry skies. I'm on a boat. Kind of, I've forgotten that Francis and Maxine are actually standing there as well, to be honest. Just having him back is nice. So you get to witness, yes, smushy young lovers dating.
Oh, I think there has to be some awkward shuffling going on.
Yes, awkward
But
shuffling.
I'm also
Makes sense at all.
fascinated.
Can't be. It's kind of like, you know, it's you feel you shouldn't be listening and watching, but you are. You can't drag yourself away, kind of thing. And you know, the Georgina and Robert kind of embrace, kiss, and then he kind of, you know, kind of pulls back a little and says, I remembered there was. I have to tell you something. There was a woman.
What? Who? What's her name?
She's Russian.
Right.
And her name is Anna. And he seems to kind of grasp for the name. And Anna, she spoke to me. I can hear her. I can hear it. But it's in my head.
It's not with you.
No, she said we were in the other world. I told her I was from England, of course.
Well,
and she seemed very surprised by that. She said there's a lake, and seemed to know that I must know someone like you, and I said yes, and I told her your name. She was a little scared, I have to say, but it was all very strange, and I have to tell you this. I think.
Don't be concerned, Robert. We are on our way to Russia. We are going to figure all of this out. However strange it is, I'm sure there is a perfectly reasonable explanation, and we're going to talk to someone who knows that you have returned, who knows that all our friends have returned, and we're hoping they might be able to explain more to us.
Yes, so, well, I know it doesn't sound much, but it was so very different. And I mean, everything else apart from this means nothing. This, and it was as real as me and you now, I have to say.
What's the last thing you remember? Have you been somewhere?
Which I saw her. I heard her voice in my head, and then I saw her. She was small, but she had strong features. She but the thing I remember most were her eyes. They were violet, striking violet eyes.
Violet.
And long brown hair. But she looked Russian. She wore, her clothes were like a peasant's clothes, I guess.
Well, as I will keep an eye open for her on our way to Russia. The Mr. John Palliser's wife wasn't called Anna, was she? No. Yes, that was it. I will try and find her in Russia. I will try. Very good.
I think you have to. She knows about me, and she spoke to me, and I think it's somehow connected.
Well, I shall gesture at Francis and Maxine as well, and say these two gentlemen also have friends who have returned, like you.
Oh, really? And he now kind of notices the rest of you, and he carries on talking, not really saying, but he's now kind of almost drifted into a kind of a regular conversation about but he just asks, who do you see, and that kind of thing. But while this is going on, Eleanor, you're finding it harder and harder to keep Grace where she is. She clearly is dying to get in the middle of that group over there that are talking about all sorts of really interesting things. So unless you can maybe come up with a good reason why you're
I want her to talk me through her art. I'm trying to look at her sketchbook.
Yeah, but she's how look at that, and she kind of throws it at you and starts walking away.
Well, tell me, what's the technique you used here? I mean, looking at the piece is nothing. I want to understand your mind as you created it.
I think we need a fast talk roll to keep her focused on you at this point. I'll maybe go for a persuade or a charm, but fast talk really.
Could I take persuade and 24 points of luck? Is that sensible?
No, it's not. If this was a pool game, maybe, but no.
Yeah, sorry.
You could push the roll.
Ooh.
The bad things happen when you do that, though.
Oh yeah, but it'd be fine. Don't worry about it.
You say it'd be fun. Final fun.
So that's a no to pushing the roll.
Yeah, I think the others will just have to accept that there's a nosy woman coming.
Okay. And suddenly Grace is among the rest of you with a so hello, my name is Grace Mallory. Can I who and
Francis turns around and as smoothly as possible sort of like says, well, I'm so glad you're feeling better because seasickness is no fun whatsoever.
Absolutely.
And it must have been absolutely terrible being laid up in your cabin this whole time and only feeling well enough to come out for the last night.
I will shoot him a look of such gratitude.
I was lined up to say that as well.
Very, very well done. Eleanor, are you kind of like following in at this point?
I'm grasping at that straw. Eleanor, are you coming in and joining?
Okay. So what's interesting is because the rest of you are watching Robert with kind of interest, because obviously here's another one, and we've all seen him, and he's real and chatting away with Georgina and some of you, but mainly Georgina, but he is, engaging in conversation. Doesn't seem to be leaving.
Is there a lake? And I'm going to try and not say things obviously, because obviously this other woman's there, but back where you're home, is that the place with the lake and the trees and I believe there are wolves there, aren't there? Is that right?
It is a lake, yes, and there are trees, and I'm not sure they're wolves though. I don't think they sound like wolves.
Howling like wolves.
There was the screaming.
Screaming.
And it's time to try and distract Grace again.
At which point, Grace is like listening, and you can see her eyes are going round and round. And if anyone can give me a good kind of verbal roll to boot Grace back into the party, now is a good chance to do it.
Yeah, I think I might try and go for a more charming approach and see if I can, soften her up a little bit, maybe with a bit of drink and.
Oh, be charming. Please be charming.
Absolutely charming. Lots of charm with a charm roll. There we go. Yeah, just made it.
Okay, have a tick. And have a tick if you've had a skill roll success tonight, because I haven't said it so far. So
no, I don't get one because I got I spent luck, didn't I? So I don't get any.
You did. Oh,
damn.
Never mind. But it's always good to spend more luck, people. Always good to spend luck.
Just
nothing bad ever
points
comes
in
of
one
that. So yes, you've basically, convinced that Grace's glass is empty or whatever, and it's about time she got another drink, and maybe she could bring one back for everyone or something like that. And you'll be along in just a moment. And anyway, she goes, and Robert seems to catch on that, Grace isn't one of you, and kind of waits for her to go. And when he says, yes, screaming, the noises, I haven't seen them. I have just heard them, and there are many of them. But I think we are wise to steer clear of those things.
It sounds dreadful, Robert. It must be very scary. Terrifying.
Only when the mist and the night comes. I mean, I have little memory of it all. I mean, most of the time, I don't really remember it much. And to be honest, it doesn't seem that long since I was with you in your flat.
Well, that's good.
But you realise now, you know, those, well, probably not Georgina, but the rest of you probably realise it's probably getting near midnight. You've seen, those of you who've been kind of watching the conversation, you've seen a lot of people leaving the party by now, heading off to their cabins and so on. But all you can hear other than your conversation now, because the music's died off, it's a kind of the lapping of the water on the boat, and a bit of a, you know, just a gentle kind of murmur and throb of the engine, you know, below. And then as you know, Robert kind of finishes what he's just said, there is a furious kind of howling scream like shriek that rings out and sounds close.
Oh.
Can I have a listen roll?
All of us?
No. Although I will grab the truncheon, or sort of like, you know, just to be on the safe side.
Where
No.
from?
Oh,
I didn't.
It's up my sleeve. I told you he did up my sleeve pretty much all the time.
Is it up your sleeve at the party? Is it really?
Can I have a look roll to see if it's up my sleeve? It is a look roll.
I've just
It
got
is a
this
look
party.
roll.
I've just remembered to take my truncheon with me.
Hey, I'm suspicious.
You are suspicious, but you've been on the boat at least 4 days now, and
Oh no, I didn't actually. I
Nothing's-
forgot to put my truncheon
sure
in my
you
dinner
did.
jacket, but
I'm
I
sure
do
you
have the
did.
knife because
You do have
the
you
knife.
made me make sure I had to carry it all the time.
exactly, and I have no problem with the knife. And if you want to run and get your truncheon, I have no problem with that.
Oh no, I'm just
not
gonna
sure-
make sure the pen knife is in my hand, ready to do stabby
No,
if I need
that's
to.
fine. Yeah, no, that's all fine.
I may not have the listen skill, but I did just roll 0-2, and I believe the default is 20%.
But yeah, you passed that. So have a tick, please. Georgina and Maxime.
Crashed and burned. No.
Burned, both of you. Okay, so really only Eleanor's made the roll.
Yay for the unskilled.
And Eleanor,
Yeah, that's an extreme.
you all know it sounded pretty close, but Eleanor, you know it sounded pretty close, and that it's just actually towards the that end of the boat, which is probably the bow.
Okay.
And that's kind of almost like, you know, dead space, as in everyone's cabins and everyone else is down that end of the boat, if you get my drift. That's all quiet and dark down
stuff.
that end.
Right.
Yeah.
I look to the others, sort of wondering if we should be running toward it or away, but there is a big part of me that needs answers, and I kind of slowly release my hand from the railing and start sort of stepping toward it.
Okay, as you
nervously,
as you turn and step in the direction, and kind of everyone around, you know, the rest of you can see that clearly, you know, Eleanor heard it's coming from down there. Robert hears the noise as Eleanor heads forward. He just says in a kind of, not loudly, but, you know, with conviction, Zalozny.
Uh-oh, grab
And
her.
we will
I swear
end
in
it
Russian.
there for tonight. As we draw the curtains closed on that, and we will wait till same time, same place next week for the Zalozny.
Death by sword
Playing,
cane.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.